Hello everybody, welcome into my latest video. I'm incredibly excited today. It's more elves. It's elves of the Aeldari variety. I'm sure you are all aware the Aeldari Codex lands today. It's up for pre-order and I'm going to go through all of the codex. I've got the codex here in front of me and I'm quite excited by it. It's one of those codexes, and I think the last one that was really cool like this was the Sisters of Battle one, where all the detachments felt really cool and you could see a direction that all the detachments went. They had synergy within them and you could just the army lists sort of wrote themselves and you got very excited about what each detachment was going to be. And I think the Aeldari Codex, although it is a little bit complicated and it gets a little bit convoluted, it is one of those codexes. I think it's really, really cool. So we're going to dive straight in. Before I do that, please drop a subscribe. That would be amazing. And then once you've finished watching the video, drop your comments down below. I want to know what you think about the new Aeldari Codex. I, for one, am already mentally written about three or four different army lists in my head about how this is all going to work. So yeah, I'm excited by it. Right, so the army rules. The army rules is called Battle Focus. It's not Battle Force. I keep having a mental slip on this. It's Battle Focus, and you get a certain number of Battle Focus tokens at the beginning of your battle round, depending on how big of a game you're playing. So they keep doing this. Games Workshop keep doing this. Like if you're playing a larger game, then you get more resources. If you're playing a smaller game, you get less resources to play around with. So if you're playing an incursion game, you get 2 Battle Force tokens. If you're playing a Strike Force, you get 4. And if you're getting an Onslaught, so the larger games, then you get 6 Battle Force tokens to use as you wish during that battle round. Now you can then use them on 6 different agile maneuvers. So if one of the units in your army does something, so it does a trigger, so for instance, Swift as the Wind, when an eligible unit from your army is selected to make a normal advance or fallback move, you can trigger this agile maneuver, and you can also do it more than once per phase on different units, and until the end of the phase, that unit adds 2 inches to the movement characteristics of the models in that unit. So you get 4 Battle Force tokens if you're playing Battle Focus tokens. Done it again. If you're playing a 2,000 point game, so you could in the first turn make 4 units get +2 to their move. Now it carries on, and we get 6 of these. So we get Flitting Shadows, Star Engines, Sudden Strike, Opportunity Seized, and Fade Back. So you have to declare that you're going to use these when a unit does the trigger, and in Flitting Shadows it's when an eligible unit from your army is selected to make a normal, advance or fallback move. It's set up on the battlefield or it declares a charge. So if any of those, and until the end of the turn, if you use a Battle Focus token for this, until the end of the turn you cannot overwatch them. So you could deep strike something in and then spend a Battle Focus token, and then nobody can overwatch that unit, which is quite good. Star Engines trigger when an eligible vehicle unit from your army is selected to make a normal move, so it's another movement one, and until the end of the phase you can add d6 plus 1 to the move characteristics of the models in that unit. So roll a dice. If you roll a 4, they can move an extra 5 inches with their Star Engines turned up. So another agile maneuver is Sudden Strike, and this is when an eligible unit is selected to fight. So this is just any eligible unit in your army. You could spend it on a vehicle or a Wave Serpent if you wanted to. I'm guessing you're going to be spending it on something like Howling Banshees or Warp Spiders or something like that, or even an Avatar of Cain. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a pile or consolidation move, it can move 6 inches rather than 3. So they're incredibly quick. It's another movement ability, another agile maneuver which gives you more movement and more speed around the tabletop. Opportunity Seized is the 5th one, and this is when an enemy unit makes a fallback move, and one eligible unit from your army, excluding Titanics, you can't do this on the Wraith Knights, that started the phase within engagement range of that enemy unit can make a normal move up to d6 plus 1. So if somebody falls back from you, you can then follow up or you can move away. It doesn't say anything about not finishing in combat on this one, so it does say a normal move, so I'm guessing you can't finish with engagement range and lock them back in, but you can move away or move and block or anything like that. So if your enemy are falling back then you can reposition a unit for one battle focus token. And the final one is fade back, and this it triggers in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot, and one eligible unit from your army, excluding Titanic. So again, you can't do it with the Wraith Knight. The Wraith Knight has changed a little bit, but you can't do it on the Wraith Knight for this one. That was hit by one or more of those attacks can make a normal move up to D6+1. So again, if you're getting shot, you can then move. You can maybe duck behind some terrain so that you don't get shot again, or you can get even further up into their grill. So yeah, that is fade back. So that's all the agile maneuvers. So just to reiterate, you get battle focus tokens if you're playing a small game. So under 2,000 points, you get 2 battle focus tokens. If you're playing 2,000 points, then you get 4. And if you're playing 3,000 or more, you get 6 battle focus tokens every battle round. Now, final thing on the battle army rules is called desperate paths or disparate paths. When mustering your army, you can include Harlequin units in your army, even though they do not have the Asuryani faction keyword. Unless otherwise stated, you cannot select Harlequins or Yunari as your army faction. So you have to be playing as Aeldari, so the battle focus army rule, but you can put Harlequins in your army, which is really, really cool. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the detachments. Okay, first detachment. First detachment is your resource gathering detachment. It's going to be the one where you've got the most resources to play around with in terms of battle focus tokens, and being able to manipulate all of those as well is going to be really, really fun. So, Warhost, you get a detachment rule called a Martial Grace, and at the start of the battle round, you receive an additional battle focus token. So for 2,000 points, you get 5 battle focus tokens to play around with every single turn. And each time a unit from your army performs an agile maneuver that put my teeth in, that involves rolling a d6, you can add a further 1 to the result. So for instance, if you were using the Star Engine and it's d6+1 to the movement characteristics, that now becomes d6+2 to the movement characteristics, which is really, really good. Okay, now the enhancements. The enhancements are most of what you would kind of expect for a sort of a Warhost detachment, which is good, to be honest. The Phoenix Gem, to the Warhost detachment, gets a Phoenix Gem. As soon as you die on a 2+, you can stand back up again. You're not allowed to come back up with an engagement range, but you do start with your full wounds remaining, which is cool. Timeless Strategist is an Asuryani model only. At the start of the battle round, if the bearer is on the battlefield, you get another battle focus token. And that does count if it is in a transport as well. So if you've got a Farseer, or if you've got a if you've got a Farseer, or if you've got a any other kind of character with the Timeless Strategist enhancement, then you're going to receive an additional battle focus token. Gift of Foresight is the next one, and Asuryani model only again, and once per battle round you can target the bearer's unit with the command reroll strat for 0 command points. Brilliant. Yeah, really, really cool. And Psychic Destroyer is the final one. Asuryani Psycho model only. Add 1 to the damage characteristic of ranged psychic weapons equipped by the bearer. And this is obviously going to be Farseer Warlock orientated, so that you can do a little bit more psychic damage with Psychic Destroyer enhancement. And then we've got the 6 stratagems. Lightning fast reactions, -1 to hit for a Asuryani unit from your army, which doesn't include anything that's a Wraith construct. And we've got Skyborn Sanctuary, which is 1 command point, and it's at the end of the fight phase, and you can get back into a transport. So if your unit is within 6 inches of a transport, you can then get back in, which is awesome. Feigned Retreat, your movement phase, and it's just after an Asuryani unit from your army has fallen back, you are eligible to shoot and charge in that turn in which it fell back. And then we've got 3 more, which is Blitzing Firepower, 1 command point, and this is in your shooting phase. And it's 1 Asuryani unit from your army that has been selected to shoot. and until the end of the phase, ranged weapons get sustained hits 1 while targeting an enemy within 12 inches. So you have to be close, but imagine if you're shooting this with fire dragons, for instance, where they've got the melter as well. If you're within 12 inches to get the melter, well, you're going to be very, very close to get within range of the melter. You then get sustained hits as well, so you're getting more melter shots going through. And if such weapon already has that ability until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made with the weapon, you get the 5+ crit. So you get sustained hits on 5s. We've got Fire and Fade, and that is in your shooting phase. And once you've shot, you can then make a normal move up to d6 plus 1 inches. And yeah, that one isn't affected by the army rule, because the army rule is just the agile maneuvers where you get the extra inch on the d6 rolls. And that one, the Fire and Fade, you're not able to charge after it, but you are able to shoot and then kind of scoot. So really, really good for your swooping hawks to move out there, shoot, and then drop back behind some cover. Webway Tunnel. End of your opponent's fight phase, 1 Azriani infantry unit from your army that is wholly within 9 inches of 1 or more battlefield edges, and if your unit is not within engagement range, you can remove it from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. Now, this is interesting because you have to be within an edge, so you can't just pull it up. You can't pick it up from anywhere. You have to be within an edge, so you can move off the battlefield and then you can come on later in the game. I'm guessing this is because there is a detachment where you are able to kind of jump up and down. So I'm guessing this is just like a mini version of that, but where you are able to maneuver and refocus your efforts with an infantry unit if you can get it within an edge of a battlefield edge. Okay, so next detachment. Okay, the Wind Rider host. Now this is definitely one of the detachments which I am just sat there making army lists in my head for, and you'll realise why when we start going through it, because it's very much kind of up my street. So the detachment rule is Ride with the Wind. Now it's quite a long one, but we'll get there. So it's another kind of thing with the Aeldari Codex is. It's very complicated, but you can understand it within like 2 sentences. So, in the declare battle formation step, you can set up Azriani mounted and Viper units from your army in reserves. During the battle, such units can be set up on the battlefield as if they were arriving from strategic reserves. For the purposes of setting up Azriani mounted and Viper units from your army on the battlefield, treat the current battle round as 1 higher than it actually is, which means you've got a little bit more space and options to come in from reserve. In addition, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can select a number of Azriani mounted or Viper units from your army, excluding those within engagement range, then remove them from the battlefield and place them in strategic reserves. The maximum number of units you can select depends on the battle size, as shown below. So, incursion size, you can pick up 1 unit. Strike force, so 2,000 points, you're able to pick up 2 units, and onslaught you can pick up 3 units. So already you can see why I love this one. I absolutely love my bouncing, or I used to love my bouncing Necron army lists. Now I can do it with Eldar as well. The Sisters of Battle one, absolutely love. It gives you so much flexibility, and it gives you such a high kind of skill ceiling with the army as well. And you can really kind of flex and show off. Well, not particularly show off, but you can like. You've always got the tools to be able to do something in a game. So yeah, two units per turn you can pick up, put into strategic reserves, and they can come back down again later in the game. Now, Wind Rider units from your army gain battle line in this army as well. So you can just have loads of Wind Riders. Love the idea of this army. Anyway. I did actually have this army. I sadly sold it to a friend, and I kind of wish I didn't. I want it back, so I might have to build up this army and see where we can go with it. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the enhancements. First, drawn blade. Azriani mounted model only. Models in the bearer's unit have Scout 9. So we're already insanely quick. Now we can scout as well. So in the first turn we can get 9 inches further up as well. Mirage Field, Asriani mounted model only. Each time an attack targets a bearer unit, it's -1 to hit. Brilliant, really, really good. Sear Sight Strike, Asriani mounted Psyker model only. Psychic models equipped by the bearer have the anti-monster 2+ and anti-vehicle 2+ vehicle. Anti-vehicle 2+ vehicle. Anti-vehicle 2+ ability. So really, really good for going and hunting out those monsters and vehicles. Stick it on a Autarch on a jet bike and get out there or something like that. Throw it on a, sorry, not an Autarch, a Farseer or a Warlock on a jet bike, send them out and go monster hunting. Echoes of Ulthanesh, so it's an Asriani mounted model again. In your command phase, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if the bearer is not within your deployment zone, and adding an additional 1 to the result if the bearer is within your opponent's deployment zone. On a 5+, I get a command point. Okay, so on a 5+, I get a command point. If I'm out of my deployment zone, I get it on a 4+, and if I'm in my opponent's deployment zone, I get it on a 3+. So 3+ for a command point for a Autarch being out in front and in my opponent's deployment zone, or just kind of pushing the barriers of movement over there. So we're getting more command points to play around with as well, which I like because we do get some cool stratagems in here. So first one is Death from on High. Your shooting phase or fight phase, and we pick a mounted or a Viper unit from your army that was set up on the battlefield from reserves this turn. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the wound roll. So Wind Riders, re-rolling all the wounds, or Vipers re-rolling all the wounds. Right, so yes, you can re-roll the wound roll for 1 command point for mounted or Viper units. A good change, at least with the Vipers. At least they've made the Vipers a little bit more like they used to be. So I used to love running like units of Vipers, and in the index they dropped down to just a single Viper. Now you can have, finally, you can have units of Vipers again, but they're only units of 2, which is still fine, still great. So I can have plenty of Vipers. I can have 6 Vipers again in my army, which is good. And yeah, we can get re-rolling the wound roll on units of 2 Vipers, which is great. Okay, so Overflight is the next one. And it's in your shooting phase or fight phase, just after an Asriani mounted unit from your army destroys an enemy unit. You can then make a normal move of up to 7 inches. So, oh dear. Yeah, so charging in with your Shining Spears, wipe out the unit and then move another 7 inches. It's a normal move. Doesn't say that you have to move closer or anything, so you can charge in, kill, and then pop back behind some terrain, or you can move further forward and try and block something off. Fantastic. Wind of Blades is the next one, and it's in your movement phase. So you're picking a mounted or a Viper unit. And until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in the turn in which it advanced or fell back. So move, advance, charge, fall back, charge, shoot in there as well. Yep, just Shining Spears, just doing everything, going everywhere. Oh, it's just so cool. And then jumping up at the end of the turn and then coming back down. Yeah, this is just going to be so much fun. So yeah, Daring Riders. I'm getting ahead of myself. Daring Riders is the 4th stratagem, and this is the reinforcement step of your movement phase, and you pick again a mounted or a Viper unit from your army that is in reserves, and until the end of the phase, when setting up your unit on the battlefield, it can set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches horizontally away from any enemy units, and if your unit is set up within 9 inches horizontally of 1 or more enemy units until the end of the turn, it is not eligible to make a charge. Now, this I'm guessing this is going to be affected by the FAQ of 6 inches rather than 3 inches. So it's still really, really good. and yeah, dropping in within within 9 inches you can't charge, but you can drop in, wipe them out, and try and take some board presence as well. So focused firepower is our next one, and this is in your shooting phase. One Asriani mounted or Viper unit from your army that has been selected to shoot, and until the end of the phase, improve the armor penetration characteristic of the attack by 1. There's just so much in this list. I love this. And then finally, this is a battle tactic, and this is in your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has been selected its targets, and you pick a mounted or a Viper unit that was selected to be shot at, and until the end of the phase, models in that unit have a 4+ invuln for 1 command point. 4+ invuln Vipers, 4+ invuln Wind Riders, 4+ invuln Shining Spears, 4+ invuln Warlock Sear Councils. Is just I really want I really want this. It's going to be really cool. The army list I had for this before was I think I had 6 Vipers, about 18 Wind Riders, couple of Falcons, couple of Wave Serpents, and 2 or 3 Fire Prisms. I don't know how many points that would be now, but I just want that list. I would probably drop in some Shining Spears. I'd drop in some some characters on some jet bikes as well, and just have a whale of a time. Sounds fantastic. I want to do it. I want to do it. And of course I will have to sort of do my kind of Dark Aeldari twist on them as well. So yeah, this is army list 1, like mentally preparing army list 1. Yeah, I'm probably I'm not going to say my favourite, because there are some crackers as well. Right, let's have a look at the rest of them. Okay, next detachment is the Sear Cancel. Now they've done something quite clever here, which I actually rather like. We've got the detachment rule again, and you'll recognise this. It's called Strands of Fate. And at the start of the first battle round, you generate fate dice by rolling a number of d6 based on the battle size as shown below. Keep the fate dice to one side. This is your fate dice pool. So you get, in an incursion game, so less than 2,000 points, you get 3 d6. For Strike Force, you get 6 fate dice, and for an Onslaught, big 3,000 point plus game, you get 9 fate dice. Now, each time one of the stratagems opposite, if your fate dice contains 1 or more fate dice showing the corresponding value on the table below, you can discard one of the corresponding fate dice, and if you do, you reduce the command point cost for the usage of that stratagem by 1 command point. So all the fate dice rolls, so if you roll a 1, it triggers the first stratagem. If you roll a 2, you can use it on the second stratagem, etc, etc. So the fate dice which you're rolling then allows you to use stratagems for free, which is cool. Quite like the way that they've sort of reinvented the fate dice. Now, the enhancements. We get Asriani's Psyker for can use the enhancement called Lucid Eye, and in your command phase you can add 1 or subtract 1 from the value of 1 fate dice in your fate dice pool. Now I would suggest this is probably an auto take, just so you can manipulate those fate dice just a little bit. For instance, if you really, well, we'll get to that in a minute anyway, but if you really want to kind of do one of the strats, you can kind of manipulate those fate dice. I think this is really good, and it needs a little bit of foreshadowing and forethought because it is in your command phase, so you have to have a plan of what you want to do in that turn, but they're always kind of the best ways to run armies anyway, and kind of planning and getting that reward. Runes of Warding is the next one, and it's a Psyker model only again, and models in the bearer's unit have a Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds, psychic attacks and critical wounds caused by attacks with a Devastating Wounds ability. So drop this in a unit of Wraith Guard or Wraith Blades or anything like that, and you're going to get a Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds. Sounds really good. And Stone of Eldritch Fury is the next one, and it's a Psycho model only again. All of these ones are Psycho models, and you can add 12 inches to the range characteristic of ranged psychic weapons equipped by the bearer, really reaching out across the battlefield to do some psychic damage. And the final one is the Talk of Morai Heg, good old Morai Heg. And once per turn, when your opponent targets a unit from your army within 12 inches of this bearer with a stratagem, you can use the enhancement. And if it does, you increase the command point cost of the usage of that stratagem by 1 command point. So you're increasing the amount of command points that your enemy is using, and that is once per turn as well. So that's actually quite good as well. You have to be able to get him up into the thick of things because it's only a 12-inch range, but taking the centre of the board and kind of giving you that 12-inch bubble should be quite good. And it is targeting the unit as well, so targeting the unit that your enemy wants to use the stratagem on as well. So if you can take that centre board, then you've got that nice bubble. Anyway, let's have a look at some of these stratagems. So if you roll a 1 on the fate dice, you'll be able to use this stratagem for free. And it's you use it in the command phase, and one as your own Psycho model from your army is the one that you pick, and you can then select an enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to that model, and the enemy must take a battle shock test, subtracting 1 from that test. So forcing battle shock tests. Obviously, we've had the Tyrannid Codex of years past, which have been just forcing battle shock tests everywhere, and we've got the indexes as well. So yep, forcing a battle shock test, and we're reaching out 18 inches is quite a good range for that as well, and we can do that for free if we do get a 1 on the fate dice. Forewarned, however, is arguably a little bit better, so you might want him to be using that Lucid Eye to adjust any 1s into Forewarned, because in the fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, and you can pick an Azriani infantry unit from your army, but it can't be a Wraith construct, which is a little bit sad, and selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks, and is within 9 inches of one or more friendly Psycho models. So there's an awful lot that you need to do for this. However, until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets your unit, it's -1 to hit and -1 to wound. So you do have to jump through a lot of hoops for this one, but -1 to hit and -1 to wound. If you do have a 2 or a 1 or a 3 as well, because you could drop the 3 down to a 1, drop the 3 down to a 2 with the Lucid Eye enhancement. So you are getting -1 to hit, -1 to wound in the 5 phase, which should be quite cool. Unshrouded Truth is the next one. So this is a fate dice roll of a number 3. You can get this one to use for free if you want to. And you're picking an infantry unit again, excluding Wraith constructs again, that was not selected to move this phase and is within 9 inches of one or more friendly Psycho models. Remove the unit from the battlefield and set it up anywhere that is more than 9 inches away horizontally from enemy units. Until the end of the phase, it is not eligible to be selected to move. So you are redeploying anywhere you like for 1 command point, or if you have rolled a 3 on a fate dice, you can do it for free as well. We then have number 4, so Fate Inescapable, and you're picking an infantry unit again, and again it's not a Wraith construct unit, and it has not been selected to shoot this phase and is within 9 inches of another Psycho model. So you're going to have lots of Psycho models around your army for this, which makes sense because it's the Sear Cancel. Anyway, until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in the unit have ignore cover. And each time a model in your unit makes an attack on a critical wound, improve the armor penetration by 1 as well. So we're ignoring cover and we're getting an extra pip of armor penetration. This is going to be really, really good and really useful for all sorts of kind of mass fire. It's going to turn Dire Avengers into something a little bit more brutal as well. So Fate Inescapable, that is the 4th stratagem. So if we get a fate dice roll of 4, we can use this one for free as well. And of course we're manipulating 5s and 3s as well to 4 if we need to. Isha's Fury is the 5th one. And this is in your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move, and you're picking an enemy. You're picking a psyker from your army within 9 inches of that unit that has fallen back, moved or advanced, and you roll a 6d6, and for each 3+, they take a mortal wound. So that's actually quite cool. I do quite like that one. This is in the kind of line of deterrent stratagems. I kind of use them as deterrent stratagems, particularly with fate dice now. So if you do have a 5 or even a 6 or a 4 and you can manipulate it as well, you can always say, if you move here, I can do this for free with this fate dice. Therefore you're controlling your opponent's movement around your around your army, and B, if you can spread out your psykers, you can kind of stop them coming anywhere near, really. So it's really, really good. I like that one. And then Psychic Shield is the last one. So this is use if you have a fate dice roll of a 6 and your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has selected its target, and you pick an infantry unit from your army. Again, it's not race constructs, that was selected as a target and is within 9 inches of a psyker model, and until the end of the phase your unit can only be selected as a target if they are within 18 inches. So no more kind of reaching out and plucking your units out from long range. They've got to be quite close for this one. So this is a 6. So interestingly, the Presentiment of Dread, which is the first one where we're forcing a battle shock test, the first and 6th stratagems we're only going to be able to manipulate from either a 2 to down to a 1 or a 5 up to a 6. So it's not like we're using one of the middle stratagems where we can use the Lucid Eye to change a 2 or a 4 to a 3. We can only move once. Now the Presentiment of Dread is just like a little bit like forcing a battle shock test. Nah, that's okay. I thought they might have put like the strongest stratagems in the 1 and the 6 spot so that you can only manipulate it a little bit, but they haven't. The Psychic Shield is good. The Forewarned is really good as well. -1 to hit, -1 to wound. That's fantastic. So if you do get a fate dice roll of a 1, 2 or a 3 and you've got the Lucid Eye, you can use that stratagem for free. And the Psychic Shield is quite good. And the Fate Inescapable, also quite cool. So ignore cover and -1 armor penetration on a crit. So the ones in the middle where you're able to manipulate up or down to get those stratagems for free, I think is quite an interesting detachment. And it is good. I could easily write an army list for it. I'm not entirely sure it would be my kind of favoured way to go. But it's definitely a really, really cool detachment. Yeah, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this is the one. This is the Spirit Conclave. This is Spirit Conclave. This is the one where we're going to have all our Wraith constructs. We're going to have all our Wraith Seers. We're going to have Spirit Seers. We're going to have Wraith Lords, Wraith Knights, Wraith Blades, Wraith Guard, Wraith everything, Wraith everything. A really, really cool dead Wraith army for the Eldar, and it should be really, really good fun. Now, the detachment rule is called Shepherds of the Dead, and I'm just going to read the fluff for this one as well. So when guided by a spirit conclave, the ghost warriors gain a clarity and prowess they would otherwise lack. Moreover, should the foe slay any of their precious spirit guides, the dead will surely have their vengeance. And the rule is, each time an Azurani Psyker model from your army is destroyed by an enemy unit, that enemy unit gains a Vengeful Dead token. Each time a Wraith Construct model from your army makes an attack that targets a unit that has 1 or more Vengeful Dead tokens, add 1 to the hit and add 1 to the wound roll. So it's almost like the Votan system that we had a few editions back. However, Azuriana Psyker models from your army also have the following ability. Spirit Guides. While a Wraith Blade, Wraith Guard or Wraith Lord unit from your army is within 12 inches, that model has the Battle Focus ability. So now we can use all the maneuvers, the agile maneuvers that we had earlier on our Wraith Blades, our Wraith Guard and our Wraith Lords, which is really, really fun. And Wraithblades and Wraithguard gain battle line. So we can just have Wraithblades, Wraithguard, 6 units, all battle line. It's going to be awesome. This is going to be a really, really good, fun detachment to play around with. Right, now, enhancements. Spirit Seer model only can use the Light of Clarity. In your command phase, select one friendly Wraith Construct unit within 12 inches of the bearer. Until the start of your next command phase, add 1 to the objective control characteristic of the infantry models in that unit and add 3 to monster models in that unit. Brilliant. Okay, cool. Love it. Stave of Kurnos. Spirit Seer model only. In your command phase, select one friendly Wraith Construct unit within 12 inches of the bearer. Can't be a Wraith Knight. Until the start of your command phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack on a critical wound, that attack has a precision ability. Whew, okay. Rune of Mists. Spirit Seer model only again. In your command phase, select one friendly Wraith Construct unit within 12 inches of the bearer. Until the start of your next command phase, each time a ranged attack targets that unit, unless the attacking model is within 18 inches, you have the benefit of cover against the attack. It's just going to be so fun. So we're picking a Wraith Construct unit within 12 inches of the bearer, and we're giving them cover. And then higher duty, Spirit Seer model only. Once per turn, when an enemy waits until when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fallback move within 9 inches, we can make a normal move up to 6. So this is really interesting that you can give this as an enhancement. Then we can drop that into a unit, and then that unit can be really maneuverable, or like we were saying in the last detachment, we can use it as a deterrent. Don't get close to this unit, otherwise I will be able to move and kind of block in or manipulate where you are able to go. Now, stratagems. Seer's Eye is the first one, and you do this in your shooting phase or your fight phase, and you pick a Psyker model from your army and one friendly Wraith Construct unit within 12 inches that has not been selected to shoot or fight. And you can select an enemy unit visible to the Psyker, and until the end of the phase, each time a model in your Wraith Construct unit makes an attack that targets that unit, you can ignore any or all modifiers to the armor penetration and or damage characteristics of that attack for 1 command point. And then, if that unit's already killed something, we're getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound as well. Wraithbone Armor is the next one. So when an opponent's shooting phase or the fight phase just after an enemy unit has selected its targets, and you pick a Wraith Construct unit from your army, not a Wraith Knight, that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacks, until the end of the phase, each time an attack is allocated, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. So we're getting -1 damage into our Wraith Blades, into our Wraith Guard, into our Wraith Lords. And yeah, so Blades from Beyond is the next one, and this is in the fight phase. We've got Wraith Blades, Wraith Lord, or Wraith Knight unit from your army. This is the first one that we can put on a Wraith Knight. Right, and you're going to like it as well. And it has not been selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have devastating wounds as well, for 1 command point. Right, Soul Bridge. So this is in your command phase, and you're going to pick a Blade, a Wraith Guard, Wraith Lord, or from your army, and 1 Psyker model from your army as well. And until the end of your next command phase, the Wraith Blades, Wraith Guard, or Wraith Lord unit is considered to be within 12 inches of your Psyker for the purposes of the Psychic Guidance and Spirit Guide abilities. Fantastic. So the Spirit Guides is while a Wraith Guard, a Wraith Blade, or Wraith Lord unit is within 12 inches of the model, that unit has the Battle Focus ability. So for 1 command point, we can pick any model on the tabletop, and then we can pick a Psyker model, and then they are considered within the Psychic Guidance and the Spirit Guides range, which is perfect. Spirit Token. Start of your movement phase, 1 Wraith Lord or Wraith Guard unit from your army, and you're going to select 1 objective marker that you control that your unit is within range with. That objective marker remains under your control until your opponent's level of control over that objective marker is greater than yours at the end of the phase. So you get sticky objectives for 1 command point, as long as a Wraith Blade or a Wraith Guard unit is on that objective in your movement phase. And then finally, Crushing Strides, and this is in your charge phase after a Wraithblade, Lord or Knight unit from your army ends a charge. And then you can select one enemy unit within engagement range and roll a d6 for each Wraithblade model in your unit, or roll 4d6 if your unit has the Wraithlord keyword, or you roll 6d6 if your unit has the Wraith Knight keyword. For each 3+, you're taking a mortal wound. So they're just charging in, stomping on everybody, smashing things out of the way. 1 mortal wound on a 3+. What a detachment idea. And it's the same as some of the other ones as well. I really like how this codex kind of works around, because everything's synergized with what you want to be picking. Everything's synergized with what you want in the army list. So this is going to be really, really good. I hopefully have a Wraith Knight on the way. I'm going to get loads of Wraith Blades and Wraith Lords and some Wraith Guard as well. I have to do a conversion for some Wraith Blades. I want to turn them into the Azrael Vect constructs, so that I can use them as grotesques as well in my Drakari. So if I can kind of shift those across and do some sort of Dark Aeldari, Wraith Blades, Wraith Guard and Wraith Lord and Wraith Knight units, and create some really cool Spirit Seer models, I'm just going to have an absolute whale of a time with this army. This sounds really, really cool. Right, let's have a look at the next one. We've got a couple left. Ghosts of the Webway. I'm going to read this one out and you're going to know exactly what this detachment is. So we have Acrobatic Onslaught. Each time a Harlequin model from your army makes a charge move, it can move through enemy models. Straight through. Perfect. Brilliant. Love it. Travelling players is also the little additional set of rules. So troop units from your army gain the battle line keyword, and troop models in those units have an objective control characteristic of 2. Brilliant. And you can also include up to 3 of each of the following models in your army: Death Jester, Shadow Seer or Troop Master. And then we get to the enhancements. Now we've got Kegarak's Coil, which is a Troop Master model only, and it's each time the bearer's unit ends a charge move, select one enemy unit within engagement range of the bearer's unit, then roll a d6 for each model in that bearer's unit that is within engagement range of the enemy unit. For each 4+, you can take a mortal wound. Okay, so you're getting into engagement range. You're rolling a d6 for every model in the unit, and on a 4+, they're taking a mortal wound. Up to a maximum of 6. So I hate that they have to put that little tag in there, but it's fine. So Mask of Secrets, Harlequin model only. Each time an enemy unit, excluding monsters and vehicles, within engagement range falls back, all models in that enemy unit must take a desperate escape test. And when doing so, if that enemy unit is battle shocked, then they're -1 from those tests as well. So really good for locking down enemy units, and I love using that on the witches all the time. So Mask of Secrets, giving it to some Harlequins should be really, really good fun. Murder's Jest, and this is a Death Jester model only. Each time the bearer makes an attack that targets an enemy that is below half strength, each hit scores a critical hit. Love it, brilliant. That has some synergies or some throwbacks to some older enhancements, which is really cool. So the Mist Weave is the final enhancement, and it's a Shadow Seer model only. And while the bearer is leading a unit, that unit has the Infiltrator's ability. It's just brilliant. So Shadow Seer, unit of troops, infiltrating, right up in your grill straight away. Now, stratagems. Staged Death. So any phase, one Harlequin character model from your army that was destroyed, you can use this stratagem on that model even though it was just destroyed. At the end of the phase, you set the model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and not within an engagement range, with half of its starting number of wounds remaining. And each model can only be brought back once. So one command point to bring a character model back. Heroes 4, also one command point. Fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. One Harlequin unit from your army that was selected as a target, and until the end of the phase, on a d6 roll of a 4+, they get Fight on Death. Which is always great. Like, you always want to try and get your output through into your enemies. So if you can fight on death with a Harlequin unit for 1 command point, you'll probably be using this in every turn that your enemy is charging you. You want to be able to get that fight on death. You want to be able to get your attacks in. So fight on death for 1 command point, absolute no-brainer. Fantastic. Mocking Flight. And this is a really, really good one. So this is in your movement phase, just after a Harlequin unit has fallen back. Till the end of the turn, you can shoot and charge in the turn in which you fell back. So 1 command point for fallback, shoot and charge. We used to have it as a detachment rule. Now it's a stratagem. I don't think that's too much of a problem. We're not trying to... I mean, it would be amazing if we could just put everything in Harlequin jail and just lock everything in and then fall back and then do it again. But yeah, for one unit, it's absolutely fine. Really good. So Trickster's Retort. And when your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move, and 1 troop unit from your army that is within 9 inches of that unit, and your unit can then make a move of up to 6 inches. So again, it's one of those little deterrent ones. Don't get close to any of my units, because for 1 command point I can make them move 6 inches. It's really good for stopping the charges, like a bit of a deterrent for getting close if you want to charge, and if they do get close, then you can back up 6 inches as well, so you're adding 6 inches to their charge if they want to try and get into you. So really, really good. Again, it's going to be a staple. You're going to be using it all the time. Bloody Dance is the next one, and so it's the end of your opponent's charge phase, and it's 1 Harlequin infantry or mounted units from your army, so you've got your Skyweavers as well. And it's within 6 inches of 1 or more enemy units that would be eligible to declare a charge against 1 or more of those enemy units if it were your charge phase. Your unit now declares a charge that only targets 1 or more of those enemy units, and you resolve that charge. So you can now interrupt charge, which is great. And there's a restriction. Note that even if this charge is successful, your unit does not receive any charge bonuses this turn. So you're just interrupting. But yeah, really, really useful, trying to get in extra units into combat, and then of course we can use fight on death if we need to as well, just for that little extra pip of damage going through. Exit the Stage is the final one, which is a great title for a Harlequin stratagem, and it's the end of your opponent's fight phase, and 1 Harlequin unit from your army that is not within engagement range, you can then remove them from the battlefield and put them into strategic reserve so that they can come in later in the game. Harlequins finally have their own detachment. I think it's really good. It's not quite as potent as it used to be, but it's definitely going to be fun to play around with. You've got plenty of synergies within here as well, and I think you've got tools within the enhancements and the stratagems to be able to do pretty much anything that you want to do with the army. Whether we are, I mean, the good thing as well is that we can add in additional units from the Aeldari Codex within to this one as well, because this is just a detachment rule. So we can have a Harlequin force with, say, some Guardians, or you can convert up some Howling Banshees to look Harlequin-esque and have those running in there with them. So yeah, it'd be really, really good. So that's that one. Let's have a look at the last 2. We've got 2 more. We've got the Guardians and we've got the Aspect Host for the last 2 detachments. Let's go and have a look at those now. Right. The next detachment, I really want to make this work. So for those of you who know me, I absolutely love infantry-based armies. So heavy infantry-based armies. Like I absolutely love like mass skeleton armies in Age of Sigmar and Old World, Old Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I love it when I can run like 60 Necron warriors or 100 Necron warriors and just have like mass infantry. I just think it looks amazing. So this is the Guardian Battle Host, and hopefully we can have a kind of a look through this and hopefully come up with some cool army lists that will work for it. So the detachment rule is defend at all costs. It's dead simple. Each time a Dire Avenger, Guardian support weapon or War Walker model from your army makes an attack, if you target a enemy unit that is within range of an objective marker, I get +1 to hit. So it's really simple, it's really aggressive. We're looking to defend the objectives on the board hopefully with plenty of infantry. So Craftsworld's Champion is the first enhancement. Asriani model only, the bearer has an objective control characteristic of 5. The Ethereal Pathway, Asriani model only again. So in the deploy army step, select up to 2 Guardian units from your army. Models in the selected units have infiltrators, so now I can push my Guardians further forward up the battlefield. Protector of the Paths. Again, Asriani model only, while the bearer is leading a Dire Avengers or a Guardians unit once per battle round, you can select the bearer's unit with the Fire Overwatch stratagem for 0 command points. And while resolving the stratagem, hits are scored on an unmodified hit of 5+ or unmodified hit of a 4+ if the target unit is in with range of an objective marker. So a little bit of extra kind of punch going out, which is going to be really good and really useful for what is hopefully going to be like a heavy infantry based list that might not have that little bit of extra punch. So adding a bit more kind of power and punch in other ways is going to be really, really interesting. And then finally is the Breath of Vol, and it's an Asriani model only again, and while the bearer is leading a Storm Guardians unit, each time you roll to determine the number of attacks made by a flamer equipped by a model in the unit, you can re-roll the result. And each time you make a damage roll for the model equipped with a Guardian fusion gun, you can re-roll that result as well. So a little bit more reliable damage coming through. So drop this on a Autarch, stick it in some Storm Guardians, then you can have a bit more of a reliable fusion and flamer gun in that unit. Again, trying to get that penetrating damage going through for what could be a kind of a mass firepower looking army. Anyway, let's have a look at those stratagems. Warding Salvos is the first one, and you're going to be picking a Dire Avenger or a Guardian unit from your army, and until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack that targets an enemy within range of an objective marker, you're going to re-roll the wound roll. Now you are getting +1 to hit as well from the detachment rule, so it's +1 to hit and re-rolling wounds. Could be pretty brutal, especially with the Dire Avengers, the amount of shots that Dire Avengers can get. So that's going to be an interesting one. So Shield Nodes is the next stratagem, and it's in your opponent's shooting phase or fight phase, and you're going to be picking a Dire Avenger or Guardian unit from your army. And if the unit is within range of 1 or more objective markers until the end of the phase, each time an attack targets that unit, it's -1 to wound. So you've got a little bit of a protective shield over your Guardians when you're on objective, which is again is great because this list is pushing you to have Dire Avengers, Guardians, a little bit more of a infantry based list, and as such you're going to be holding objectives with slightly more fragile units, so being able to have -1 to wound for 1 command point on those objectives is going to be really, really fun. Now you might be able to be in a situation where you're kind of baiting out this, or your opponent is baiting it out so that they can then switch, so you're going to have to be very, very careful on which objectives you are standing on, limiting lines of fire and things like that, so that they can't kind of just bait this one out and then switch to another unit on another objective. So just be careful with that one. Vol's Vengeance. So this is in your opponent's shooting phase, and it's just after an enemy unit destroys a Dire Avengers or Guardian unit from your army, and you can then select a Warwalker unit, and after the enemy unit has finished shooting, you can then shoot back with the Warwalker. You can only use this stratagem once per round, and yeah, so you're wanting plenty of Warwalkers, plenty of Guardians. The Warwalkers are going to be having a bit more. You could, when you're creating the army, you can have a little bit more punch on the Warwalkers. But if you're using this stratagem, you're going to be wanting Warwalkers that are probably having a few more shots than just sticking bright lancers on them, because if you're shooting back, if it's a unit that has destroyed Dire Avengers or Guardians, you're not going to be wanting to shoot 1 shot back, you're going to be wanting to shoot multiple shots back. So the Warwalkers you're going to be wanting different loadouts on your War Walkers. Some of them having multiple shots so that they can be within range and kind of walk around with Guardians, so that they can use this stratagem and then shoot back and get a little bit more penetrating firepower going into the enemy. But yeah, it's really cool, and it just kind of alters the way that we want to build this list. Time to strike, and so this is in your movement phase, and you're going to be picking a Storm Guardian unit from your army that has not been selected to move, and until the end of the phase, each time your unit advances, they're just going to auto advance 6. And until the end of the turn, your target is eligible to shoot and charge when it has advanced. So Storm Guardians, 1 command point, auto advancing 6, and shooting and charging, which is going to be really good for getting into and locking up the enemy. Blades of Azurian is the 5th stratagem that we get. Again, it's 1 command point, and it's in your shooting phase, and you're going to be picking a Dire Avenger or Guardian unit from your army. And until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the pistol ability. So we can get into combat, pay 1 command point, and then we can shoot in combat as well, with some pretty brutal shurikens. Right, cost of victory is this is 1 command point again. It's in your opponent's fight phase this time. You'll be picking a Guardian unit from your army, and if your unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, remove it from the battlefield and place it in strategic reserves. When doing so, return every destroyed Guardian model to your unit. So if you're not clearing out units of Guardians, you can pick them up and you can put you can bring back an entire unit of Guardians. So, like I say, I really want to make this army work. I love the idea of just loads of Guardians, loads of support platforms, loads of War Walkers. You could have plenty of Falcons and Wave Serpents in here as well, and try to be really manoeuvrable and dropping off Guardian units left, right, and centre, and just flooding the battlefield with Guardians and Eldar. I like how this army could look. I'm not sure how it's going to play. We're going to have to be very careful about what resources you use and at what time, because you definitely don't want to overextend this one, because you could end up losing like half your army quite quickly, because it is, after all, it is just Guardians and just Dire Avengers and just like War Walkers and just very, very fragile things. So it could be really, really good fun. I really want to get this onto get this onto the tabletop and just kind of play it out and plan it out in my head, and just see how I get into turn 3 and see what I've got left and see how many resources I've got to use. So I do like this one, but I've got to get it on the tabletop and see how it plays. I haven't got that many Guardians. I think I've only got 20 Guardians, so I'll have to use some Kabbalite warriors just to kind of stand in for some more Guardians just for a little while I kind of play around with how this is going to work. But yeah, I love how this one could look on the battlefield. Okay, so from the Guardian detachment, we now have the exact opposite, which is the Aspect Warrior detachment. So this is just all the Aspect Warriors and avatars that you could possibly get, just all smashed into one army list. Now, Path of the Warrior is a detachment rule, and it just makes everything better. So each time a model in this unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll of a 1, and each time a model in the unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the wound roll of a 1. So we're just hitting all the time, we're wounding all the time. It's going to be just completely reliable damage going through. How big the army is going to be, I don't know. We're going to be a much more elite force, but this should be, with all the tools that we've got in the Eldar list, this should be really, really good fun. Enhancements. Aspect of Murder. Just the best first enhancement ever. So this is an Autarch or an Autarch Wayleaper, and you can add 1 to the damage characteristics of melee weapons equipped by the bearer, and they also have precision. So we're already kind of going like just mental damage already. So we're re-rolling hit rolls of 1, re-rolling wound rolls of a 1, with more damage on our melee weapons as well. Okay. Mantle of Wisdom is the next one. Autarch or Autarch Way Leaper again, while it's leading an Aspect Warrior unit, each time that unit is selected to shoot or fight until the end of the phase, models in the unit gain both of the abilities from the Path of the Warrior detachment rule. So we're getting both. So we can reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of a 1 as long as this model is leading an Aspect Warrior unit. Shimmerstone is the next one, and this is Autarch or Autarch Way Leaper model. While the bearer is leading an Aspect Warrior unit, each time a ranged attack targets that unit, -1 to wound. So with a little bit more reliable, sorry, not reliable, a little bit more survivable for the Aspect Warrior unit. And then the final enhancement that we've got is Strategic Savant, and an Autarch or Autarch Way Leaper model unit. While the bearer is leading an Aspect Warriors unit, add 1 to the objective control characteristic of models in that unit. So being an elite army, we're going to be struggling a little bit on objective control. So adding this one in is probably going to be quite beneficial. Okay, stratagems. Warrior focus is the first one. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in a unit of either Aspect Warriors or the Avatar of Cain makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to the ballistic skill, weapon skill, strength, armor penetration, and damage characteristics, and or any or all modifiers to the hit roll. Yeah, one command point. So this is just making sure that whenever you go in for that surgical strike, the damage that you are putting out by that unit or by the Avatar of Cain, that damage is going through. We're re-rolling either the hit roll or the wound roll, and then we are ignoring all the damage, all the strength, all the armor penetration. Any of that is just going through absolutely brutal. Really, really good. To their final breath is their next one. And this is fight phase, just after an enemy unit has selected its targets. And you pick an Aspect Warrior or an Avatar of Cain, and each time you use the stratagem, you can remove 1 Aspect Shrine token your unit has. Then, until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if that model has not fought, roll a d6, adding 1 to the result if you removed an Aspect Shrine token during the usage of this stratagem. On a 4+, so 3+ if they've still got that marker and you've removed it, they get to fight on death. Again, it's just fantastic. Getting guaranteed damage, or getting the ability to guarantee that your damage is going to go through, regardless of whether you're getting killed or not, is fantastic. It's why Space Wolves used to be so brutal in the game. Okay, Skyborn Sanctuary. End of the fight phase, and you're picking an Azraeli unit from your army and a friendly transport, and if you're wholly within 6 inches of the transport, you can get into it. So you can get out of your transport, you can charge, you can kill something, and then as long as that unit is dead, then you can get back into your transport. In fact, end of the fight phase, 1 Azraeli unit from your army and 1 friendly transport it is able to embark with. If your Azraeli unit is wholly within 6, you can just embark on it. So it doesn't even say if you're in combat, so you can probably drop out of combat with that as well. Let me know in the comments if that's true. I think that's right. So Doom Inescapable. Your shooting phase, 1 Avatar of Cain model from your army that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, your model's Wailing Doom ranged weapon has a range characteristic of 18 and a damage characteristic of 8. For 1 command point. Boom! Right, preternatural precision. It's in your shooting phase, 1 Aspect Warrior unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot this phase, and each time you use the stratagem you can remove 1 Aspect Shrine token again, and then select one of the following abilities. You can either get Ignore Cover, Lethal Hits, or Sustained Hits. And until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the selected ability. And if you remove an Aspect Shrine token, you can pick 2. So you can have lethal hits and sustained hits if you've removed a Aspect Shrine token. If you haven't, then you can just pick 1. So Cain's Vengeance is the final one, and this is in your movement phase just after an enemy unit has fallen back. You pick an Aspect Warrior or an Avatar of Cain unit from your army that is within engagement range of that enemy unit, and all models in the unit must take a Desperate Escape test, and of course when doing so, if they're battle shocked, then they are -1 to that test. Now, Aspect Host, in the right hands, this is just going to be brutal. Eldar historically and Eldar now have so much hitting power. If you can focus that hitting power, it's like a surgeon. If you've got a load of scalpels and you only need one scalpel to do that particular job, and you've got 7 of them, you can do that particular job 7 times across the length of a battle. This detachment is going to be so much fun to play. I do have an avatar. I had 2 of them. I built one and raffled it off on my Twitch stream. So I do have another one. I need to convert it a little bit. I need to drop down the size of the spear and drop down the spear arm a little bit. But anyway, I have an avatar. I've got some of the Aspect Warriors. I need to get the new Aspect Warriors as well. But this is just going to be so much fun. It'd be really, really nice to see once we've written an army list how big the army is. But I don't think it's going to suffer that much from points. So we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, now we're going to go through, we're going to have a look at some of my favourite picks from the data sheets now. So if you bear with me, we'll get back to that next. Okay, so I have to start with the Harlequins, because the Harlequins, we'll get to it. Okay, so the Harlequins, the Harlequin Troop Master and the Troop, they both get war gear abilities called the Flip Belt. So the Flip Belt, the Harlequins get the Flip Belt back. Each time the bearer's unit makes a normal, advance, fall back or charge move, ignore any vertical distances when determining the total distance the bearer can move during that move. So they're back, they move 8 inches as it is. We can get, when we put the battle focus on them, and we can make them move an extra 2 inches, and we can move 10 inches. And yeah, these are going to be really, really good fun. They're only doing like 1 or 2 damage here and there. However, the Troop Master has got Choreographer of War, and while this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit that makes a piling consolidate move, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3, and in addition, it does not need to end that move closer to the closest enemy unit, provided it ends as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. So we don't have to finish closer to the closest enemy model, just have to finish as a whole closer to the enemy unit. And then each time this model makes a melee attack, you can re-roll a hit roll of a 1 and add 1 to the wound roll. So re-rolling hit rolls of 1 and adding 1 to the re-roll, we're already hitting on 2s, so we're hitting all of the times, and then we're getting +1 to wound as well. So that's really, really good for the Troop Master. And then the troops themselves get the Dance of Death ability, which is at the start of the fight phase. You can select one of the following abilities for this unit to gain until the end of the phase. So we get, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, we can re-roll a hit roll of a 1. Each time a model in the unit makes an attack, we can add 1 to the wound roll. Or each time an attack targets this unit, we can -1 to hit. So we get to pick one of those 3 abilities to apply to the troops every single fight phase, which is brilliant. And then of course they get their Flip Belt as well. Okay, just one more before we get into the Eldar stuff, and it is Yvraine. So Yvraine has the Storm of Whispers, and she also has her Kavir sword, and she is a servant of the Whispering God. So if you have Yvraine, then you can't have any epic heroes apart from the Ynnari ones. So you can have the Vizark and the Incarn, but you can't have any of the Eldar epic heroes. However, she has the Word of the Phoenix. Now, you can put this unit in Corsair Void Scarred, Corsair Void Weavers, Guardian Defenders, Storm Guardians, Ynnari Incubi, Ynnari Kabbalite Warriors, or Ynnari Witches. Now, the Word of the Phoenix is a psychic ability, and while this model is leading a unit in your command phase, roll 1d6. on a 2+, D3+1 destroyed bodyguard models, excluding support weapon models, so you can't bring the support weapon back, are returned to their unit with their full wounds remaining. So you can just keep bringing Incubi back. It's just brilliant. And then also, Herald of Yniad. At the start of the fight phase, select one enemy unit within engagement range of this model until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Aeldari model makes an attack against that target unit, you can re-roll the wound roll. So if you stick her in a unit of Incubi, we're not only getting Incubi back every turn, we're also re-rolling the wound roll on the Incubi weapons, which is, yeah. So Yvraine is really cool. I mean, she's a gorgeous model anyway, and yeah, there we go. So Yvraine, that's her new data sheet. Okay, so the Avatar of Cain, we've got the Avatar of Cain here. It is movement 10. Now we get a single shot from its ranged weapon, the Wailing Doom. It is strength 16, AP 4, and D6+2 damage. And then in melee, we can either do 6 attacks or 12 attacks at either strength 16 or strength 8, -4 armor penetration and D6+2. Or -2 armor penetration and damage 2 for the sweep attack, for the 12 attacks. And then we are halving the damage characteristic of any damage that is coming into it, because it has molten form. And we also have the bloody handed aura. So while an Aeldari unit is within 6 inches, we are adding 1 to the advance and charge rolls made for this unit. So this, in the aspect host detachment, surrounded by aspect warriors, we're adding 1 to the advance and charge rolls within 6 inches of the Avatar of Cain as well. So he's just making force multiplier. He's making the army better straight away with that. Now the Farseer and the Farseer Skyrunner, they have a couple of abilities as well. So the Farseer himself says while he's leading a unit, once per phase you can change the result of 1 hit roll, 1 wound roll, or 1 damage roll made by a model in that unit, excluding the support weapons, to an unmodified 6. So you can automatically wound, automatically hit, etc. And then also the Farseer Skyrunner has got branching fates. So while this model is leading a unit once per phase, you can also change the result of a hit, wound, or a damage roll made by a model in the unit to an unmodified 6. And then we've got the Autarch Wayleaper. So the Autarch itself has a superlative strategist, so you can re-roll any rolls made when you're performing an agile maneuver with this guy. And they also get the path of command, so they can reduce the command point cost of a stratagem down by 1 command point. And then the Autarch Wayleaper has an ability where while this model is leading a unit, each time you spend a battle focus token, you can roll a d6, and on a 3+ you gain that token back, which is really good. So Autarchs, as always, really good at making use of resources and generating back resources that you can then use in the game. Okay, let's crash through some of the Phoenix Lords. Now, unfortunately, Karandras didn't even make the Codex. I know he didn't get a new model, but he didn't even make the Codex either. Why do they hate Karandras? So I'm sure there's a Karandras model coming at some point, and yeah, it'll be cool to see that guy. If you're really sad, then you can of course just use Drazar. So anyway, let's have a look at some of the Phoenix Lords, as well as Eldrad Ulthran. So Eldrad gets a extra command point at the beginning of the command phase, and also at the end of your movement phase you can select an enemy unit within 18 inches and visible, and until the start of your next command phase, each time a friendly Aeldari model makes an attack against that enemy unit, you can add 1 to the wound roll. So Eldrad has Doom, that is his Doom ability, makes him really good in terms of force multiplier for that. So Baharoth has Cloud Strider ability. So while this model is leading a unit, at the end of your opponent's turn, if that unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can remove it from the battlefield and place it into strategic reserves. In addition, while this model is leading a unit, within that unit is set up on the battlefield using the Deep Strike ability, it can use this ability. If it does so, that unit can set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches horizontally and more than 9 inches away from all enemy models, but until the end of the phase it is not eligible to charge. So this is more than 3 inches horizontally. I'm guessing this is going to be, again, it's going to be FAQ. It's going to get caught by their FAQ, so it's going to be 6 inches. But even so, just picking up a unit and dropping them back down again as Baharoth is going to be really, really good. We have Tactical Acumen from Azurman. So while this model is leading a unit in your shooting phase, after that unit has shot, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches, which is absolutely fantastic. And then Fugan has got the Burning Lance. So while this model is leading a unit, you can add 6 inches to the range characteristic of melter weapons equipped by models in the unit, which is fantastic. Really, really good. It just pushes that minimum range, because you had to be so close to get the advantage of melter from fire dragons and things. And now with that extra 6 inches, therefore 3 inches of melter range, it just allows you to reach just that little bit further out to get that extra damage. And then, of course, the first time this model is destroyed at the end of the phase, roll a d6, and on 2+, he can come back up again. And he has the full wounds remaining, which is 5. Now, Lycus, the lovely new fantastic Warp Spider Phoenix Lord. Hopefully you've seen the model that I've painted that was up on Warhammer Community, and this model is a really, really cool model. I'm going to do another one because I've got another plan to do another kind of repose for her, but she's fantastic. She has an ambush ability, so while this model is leading a unit, that unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it used the flicker jump ability. So you can flicker jump with the warp spiders and go an absolutely ridiculous distance, and then you can charge as well. And then Whispering Web, so in your shooting phase after this model has shot, select one enemy unit and you can critical hit on a unmodified roll of 5+. She's good. She's really, really good. She gets 5 attacks in combat. She gets d6 plus 3 shots in the shooting phase. Doesn't do that amount of damage, but I mean, she's force multiplier again for the warp spiders. She's going to be really good. We have Jane Zar, who has the Whirling Death ability, and while this model is leading a unit, each time that unit advances, they're going to auto advance 6. And in addition, also, if the models in that unit make an advance roll, you ignore any vertical distance when determining the total distance that model can be moved during that move as well. So we're auto advancing 6, and we are ignoring any kind of any terrain in the way as well. So Jane Zar with a unit of Howling Banshees is going to be fantastic, as you would always expect. Right, now, Morgan Ra has got the Harvester of Souls ability. So while this model is leading a unit, surprise, surprise, it can only lead Dark Reapers. In your shooting phase, after selecting targets for that unit's attacks, if every attack targets the same unit, roll 1d6 for the target. And 1d6 for every other enemy unit within 3 inches of the target. On a 5+, the unit being rolled for is struck by explosive debris. After resolving all of that unit's attacks against the target unit, each unit struck by explosive debris suffers d3 mortal wounds. So we've got splatter. If you're making sure that you're targeting something that have got enemy units within 3 inches of it, you're going to be doing kind of splatter damage around it as well. Okay. Right, so you remember Lycus's flicker jump ability, where she, if she's leading a unit of warp spiders, they can flicker jump and then still charge. Well, what is flicker jump? Flicker jump on the warp spiders. Now, they already have a 12-inch move, so you can make them move a further 3 inches if you were to use the agile maneuver, so they could go an extra 2 inches and then an extra 1 in the right detachment. So they could go 15 inches, or in your movement phase, each time this unit is selected to make a normal move, it can use this ability. If it does until the end of the turn, this unit is not eligible to declare a charge, and models have a move characteristic of 24 inches. Now if Lycus is in this unit, you can declare a charge. So warp spiders can move 24 inches and charge. What's the damage like, you may ask? Right, well, the warp spiders themselves only have 2 attacks. They only hit on a 3. They're only strength 3, and they only do 1 damage. However, the Exarch has 10 attacks that are strength 4, -2 armor penetration, and 1 damage. So they can certainly get a lot of kind of punch out of this. Now, the aspect warriors themselves all have these little aspect shrine tokens, and the warp spiders, once per battle, for each aspect shrine token this unit has, you can change the result of 1 hit or wound roll made for the model to an unmodified 6. So you can then drop that aspect shrine token away. You get 1 aspect shrine token for every 5 models. So if you have a full unit of 10, then you can have 2 aspect shrine tokens, and then you can make use of those in the stratagems as well to get bonuses, as you heard in the aspect host detachment. Okay, now the fire dragons. The fire dragons have always been a bit of an odd aspect, because for them to be really good, you had to be really close. Now, you couldn't deep strike them in because they were still out of range of the melter, because the range is 12 inches, so you had to be under 6 inches to get the melter. Then we could drop in within 3 inches, but then they're just very, very fragile. So dropping in within 3 inches is a very expensive kind of drop in there. Now we can't drop in within 3. We now have to drop in within 6. Within 6 is now still out of melter range, so we're not getting the melter 3 on the dragon fusion guns. However, with the addition of Fugan into these units, we do add to the range. So the range then becomes 15 inches. Now 15 inches with melter 3 at half range then becomes a 7-inch half range, or 7.5-inch half range, which means that we are able to drop in within 6, or just outside of 6, and then still being able to make that benefit of the melter 3 rule that they get on their guns, which gives you a little bit more flexibility on how to use them. And then also they have assured destruction ability. So in your shooting phase, each time a model in the unit makes a range attack that targets a monster or a vehicle, you can re-roll the hit roll, and you can re-roll the wound roll, and you can re-roll the damage roll. So we're hitting on 3s re-rolling. We are strength 9, with strength 12 with the fire pike on the Exarch, with strength 9, -4 armor penetration, and then d6, and then they are melter 3, so it's d6 plus 3, but re-rolling the damage roll as well. So these actually might start getting a little bit more play. The aspect shrine token as well, so once per battle we can remove that aspect shrine token, and then we can change the result of 1 hit roll, wound roll, or from the unit to an unmodified 6, so we can always guarantee that we get a hit through. However, I'd probably prefer to use that aspect shrine token for one of the stratagems and getting a bit more of a benefit from those, because ultimately we're re-rolling everything anyway, hitting on 3s. We're re-rolling the wounds, hitting with strength 9, and then we are re-rolling the damage as well. So they turned into a little bit of a very, very reliable anti-tank hunters. It's just whether we are able to then protect them afterwards. Now, we could probably kind of move and shoot in some of the detachments. So, shoot and then move, shoot and scoot in some of the detachments and try and get a little bit of protection there. So, yeah, they definitely offer a little bit more than they used to. So that's the fire dragons, but you are going to need Fugan in there as well. So all the special characters, all the Phoenix Lords. Yeah, let's go and have a look at some more. Okay, we're just going to have a quick look at the Striking Scorpions as well. So the Striking Scorpions are rather an interesting pick. They don't have, unfortunately, they don't have their Phoenix Lord with them. I'm sure he's coming at some point. However, they do have Mandy Blasters. So each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if it made a charge move this turn, an unmodified hit of a 5+ scores a critical hit. Now, in melee, they have sustained hits. 1. So they have a biting blade which has 4 attacks, sustained hits 1, critting on a 5 if they've charged. They are hitting on a 3. They are strength 5 at -3 armor penetration and damage 1. And they also are infiltrators, and they scout 7, and they've got stealth. So Striking Scorpions actually do everything. They're very, very good at getting up in your opponent's grill like straight away. They could be really interesting to drop in a aspect host forced and just put a little bit of pressure on them while you're setting up the positions of all the other aspect warriors. They might be a little bit of a throwaway unit. And then, of course, they still have the Aspect Shrine token as well, so you can alter the hit or the wound roll of a target of a attack to 6 automatically. So I think they've got some play. They also get a 5+ invuln save. They've got a 3-up save anyway. All the Aspect Warriors seem to have the same sort of save in terms of a save and then an invuln. So these guys get a 3-up save, 5+ invuln. They move 7. They've already got Scout 7. They're infiltrating as well. These are going to be very, very good for kind of putting early pressure on if you need to. Okay, let's have a look at the Warlock Conclave. And the Warlock Conclave has the Psychic Communion ability, which is each time this unit is selected to shoot. For each Warlock model in this unit until the end of the phase, add 1 to the attacks and strength characteristics of that model's destructor weapon for each other friendly Aeldari Psycho model within 6 inches of that model, up to a maximum of +2. So the destructor weapon is a psychic torrent weapon which has got d6 shots, d6 attacks, and it is strength 5. So you could take this to d6 +2 attacks at strength 7, -1 armor penetration and 1 damage. So you could have up to 4 warlocks in here. So you could have 4 warlocks all doing d6 +2 shots at strength 7, -1 and 1 damage at range. Now these are movement 7. However, you can put them on Skyrunners, and the Skyrunners, the Warlock Skyrunners, you can only have in a unit of 2, but you can still put them in a unit of 2, which is good. And their destructor is also the same, so it's d6 shots, strength 5, -1 and 1 damage. But they also have Psychic Communion. So each time this unit is selected to shoot, for each Warlock model in this unit until the end of the phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of model's destructor weapon for each other friendly Aeldari Psycho model within 6 inches of that model, to a maximum of 2. So you could do exactly the same with this. You could have 2 units of Warlock Skyrunners running close by and buffing up the buffing of each other's destructor weapons. So running around at 14-inch movement with d6 +2 shots at strength 7, -1 and 1 damage. And then after that we get the Wraith Knight. Now the Wraith Knight, they have split the Wraith Knight. We now have the Wraith Knight with the Ghostglaive and the Wraith Knight with the guns. So they've split the sword and board off, I'm guessing so that they can have a little bit more control over the points values of these ones. And also the Wraith Knight with the Ghostglaive has got a Titanic Agility ability, which is each time this model makes a normal, advance or fallback move, it can move through models and terrain features. When doing so, it can move within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end that move within engagement range of them. So it can move over enemy models, it can move through enemy models, it can move through terrain, but then it has to finish outside. So that's really good for the Ghostglaive, for the Wraith Knight with the Ghostglaive. It's also got movement 12, so it's able to get out there. It's toughness 12, 2-up save, 18 wounds, and yeah, it's quite good. Now it's got a 4+ invuln from the scatter shield. It's got 15 attacks with the sword on a sweep, and it's got 5 attacks with a strike. So if it's sweeping, it's strength 8 -2 and 2 damage, and if it's striking just those 5 attacks, it's got strength 18 -3 and 6 damage. Now if we compare that to the regular Wraith Knight, so the regular Wraith Knight can either have a heavy Wraith Cannon, a Sun Cannon, a heavy Wraith Cannon, a Scatter Shield, or a Star Cannon, and then it can also have a Sun Cannon as well. So you've got plenty of options on here. The heavy Wraith Cannon is strength 20 with 2d6 damage. It gets d3 shots and it's got devastating wounds, so you could get 2 of those on there. The Scatter Shield, you can give it a Scatter Shield, that gives it a 4+ invuln if it needs to, and then its abilities, it has Titanic Stride, so each time this model makes a normal, advance or fallback move, it can move through models, excluding Titanic models, and section of terrain features that are 4 inches or less in height. So this one can't move through terrain as normal, it can just step over low terrain. It cannot move within engagement range of enemy models. It can move within engagement range of enemy models, but cannot end the move within engagement range. And it can also move through sections of terrain that are more. It can also move through sections of terrain features that are more than 4 inches in height. But if it does so after it moves, roll a d6. On a 1, it is battle shocked. And then it has point blank devastation as well. So each time this model's heavy Wraith Cannon or Sun Cannon targets a unit within half range, so the Wraith Cannon is 36-inch range and the Sun Cannon is 48-inch range, you can re-roll the dice to determine the number of attacks made. So the Sun Cannon is d6 + 4 and the heavy Wraith Cannon is d3 shots. So if you're within half range, you can re-roll those and get a little bit more reliable shots through. I do not know which way I will build my Wraith Knight. I will probably definitely sort of magnetize them and try and get something going in terms of magnetizing some weapons or some posers. But I think I'm more likely to sort of pin the arms on, so I can get a bit more of a kind of a dramatic pose going on with these. So I'll see what sort of pose I can come up with when I build mine. Anyway, right now. The Vipers, I'm so excited about the Vipers. I'm so glad they've actually got a unit composition again. So you can have 1 to 2 Vipers again. Every model is equipped with a Shuriken Cannon, Twin-Link Shuriken Catapult, and the Wraithbone Hull. And then any number of models can each have their Shuriken Cannon replaced with one of the following. So you can either put a missile launcher on them, a Bright Lance, a Scatter Laser, or a Star Cannon. So you can manipulate and change what the unit looks like. With the Wind Rider host, these now become battle line again, so that I can take 6 of them, get plenty of them in there. 6 units of them, so I could have 12 Vipers. Hang on, let me just double check that. No, it's just Wind Riders which take battle lines, so I can only have 6. I can only have 6 Vipers, but I can have 3 units of 2 Vipers, which is a nice change. It used to be only, in the index, it was only 1 Viper in a unit. But two Vipers, really nice. It would be nice to have 3 Vipers and have that little kind of arrowhead formation, but at least we can take 2 now in a unit. And yeah, swapping them over. I'd probably drop a Bright Lance on them. It's either a Bright Lance or a Star Cannon, I think, for me. Try and get a little bit of punch through. The Star Cannon has double the shots, but it's got a little bit less strength. So the Star Cannon is 2 shots at strength 8, whereas the Bright Lance is 1 shot at strength 12. And then you can sort of use the missile launcher to try and get a little bit of both worlds. The missile launcher has got a Star Shot, which is strength 10, or the Sunburst, which is a blast weapon at strength 4. So one of the two. But Vipers, in my opinion, iconic, brilliant, fantastic vehicles, and it's just nice to see them being able to be taken as a unit again. And then we have the Wraithblades and the Wraithguard, which I'm quite excited about these two. Now, the Malevolent Souls on the Wraith Blade, so each time a model in this unit is destroyed by a melee attack, if it's not fought, they get a 3+ fight on death, which is really good. And then the Wraith Guard themselves, it is eligible to shoot in which a turn in a turn in which it fell back, so you can fall back and shoot with the Wraith Guard. And then they also get, while it's within 12 inches of one or more Psyker units, the models in this unit have a leadership characteristic of 6+ rather than 8+ that they normally have. And each time a model in this unit makes an attack, you can add 1 to the hit roll. So they are hitting on 4+ at the moment as Wraith Guard with a Wraith Cannon, but if they are within 6 inches of a Psyker, they are then hitting on 3+, just makes them a little bit more reliable there. Okay, right, we have the Guardian Defenders and the War Walkers, so these are going to be 2 of the staple units for a couple of those detachments. And the Guardian Defenders have Fleet of Foot ability, which means that they can use the Fade Back Agile maneuver for free. So you don't need a battle focus token to use it, and then also it doesn't prevent any other units from using it, or if another unit has already used it, these can still do it. So the fade back is if this unit gets shot at, it can then move that d6 inches away, or closer, or behind some terrain or something like that. So just gives the Guardian Defenders a little bit of free movement, which is good. And then the War Walkers have a rather nice synergy with the rest of the army as well. So they have crystalline targeting. So in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, you can select an enemy unit that was hit by 1 or more of these attacks, and until the end of the phase, each time a friendly Aeldari unit makes an attack, they get an extra pip of armor penetration. You can only do this once, so you can't stack this up and get more armor penetration, but you can increase the armor penetration of that attack by 1, which is really, really good. And then the Wind Riders, of course, going to be the absolute star of the Wind Rider host detachment, and then these become battle line as well, so you can just take tons of these. They get Swift Demise, which is each time a model in this unit makes a ranged attack, you can re-roll the hit roll of a 1, and if the target of that attack is the closest eligible target, you can also re-roll the entire wound roll. So they're hitting on 3s anyway with their scatter laser or shuriken cannon, and they're re-rolling and getting that damage through pretty much guaranteed. So any number of the models in this unit can have their twin shuriken catapult replaced by a scatter laser or a shuriken cannon. I'd definitely do it. I'd probably change. So the shuriken cannon is 3 shots at strength 6, damage 2, but it's got lethal hits, and then the scatter laser has got sustained hits, but it's got 6 attacks at strength 6. With no armor penetration and only 1 damage. So I'd probably do half and half. I'd probably have half shuriken cannons, half scatter lasers, or maybe because I'm doing the Wind Rider host, maybe I'd have a full unit of shuriken cannons and then a full unit of scatter lasers, and give each different unit a different role in the battle at that particular time. So Wind Riders are units of 3 to 6. So with a full unit of 6, that is 36 scatter laser shots, or it's 18 shuriken cannon shots with either lethal hits or sustained hits. So it's quite good for either of them. I do like the Wind Riders. I just think that army would look amazing. Loads of Wind Riders, loads of Vipers, loads of Falcons and Fire Prisms and Wave Serpents and things like that. Speaking of Fire Prisms, the Fire Prism has the Crystal Matrix still, so each time this model is selected to shoot, you can re-roll a hit roll and you can re-roll the wound roll when resolving those attacks. And yeah, the dispersed pulse is only strength 8, but it does get 2d6 shots, whereas the focus lance does get 2 shots and it is strength 18 at damage 6. So yeah, the Fire Prism is pretty good. The Web Spinner, the Night Spinner, also gets the Doom Weaver, so it gets strength 7 d6 plus 3 shots from the Doom Weaver, and the Monofilament Web. So in your shooting phase after this model has shot, if 1 or more of those attacks made with its Doom Weaver scored a hit against an enemy unit until the start of your next turn, that enemy unit is pinned. While an enemy unit is pinned, subtract 2 from the movement characteristic and subtract 2 from the charge rolls it is made. So the Doom Weaver on the Night Spinner is still indirect fire, it's still blast, it's still twin linked, and it's still doing the -2. They're still doing the movement shenanigans with the -2 to the movement and charge rolls. So yeah, and then finally we're going to do one final vehicle. We've got the Falcon, which could be really good fun for the Aspect Warrior Host detachment. So the Falcon has the fire support ability. So in your shooting phase, after this model has shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one of those attacks, and until the end of the turn, each time a friendly model that has disembarked from this transport makes an attack that targets the enemy unit, you can re-roll the wound roll. So if you're dropping fire dragons in here, fire dragons are re-rolling anything anyway if they're targeting a vehicle, but if you're dropping Dark Reapers in here, if you're dropping anything else like Dire Avengers in here, they're going to benefit massively from that. The Falcon is movement 14, it's toughness 9 with 12 wounds and a 3-up save. Yeah, it's just going to be fun. So I am very excited by this codex. It feels like it's one of the codexes where we've just started taking a little bit of a turn away from what some of the earlier codexes were. We're getting some really good synergy between all the detachments and all the rules and stratagems within those detachments. They're very much focused around what you want to take in those detachments. There were some of the detachments from earlier codexes which were really fun, but then the units that you wanted to take in those detachments didn't synergize with any of the enhancements or the stratagems, so it was very disconnected. Whereas this feels like it is very connected. There's lots of synergies going on between all the detachments, all the stratagems within them, yeah, I'm going to start writing some army lists as soon as possible. Let me know what you think with the Aeldari Codex, either from this initial read through or when you'll get your hands on it, which detachment you're going to be kind of working and reading your which detachment you're going to be writing your army lists around first, and I want to see some of those army lists as well. So if you're ever around and I'm live on Twitch or on YouTube, drop into my stream, let me know what your new Aeldari force list looks like, and I will see you again very soon. Please drop me a like and a subscribe, drop some comments down below on what you think of the detachments as we're going, and you can find me on Twitch and YouTube pretty much every day during the week. It's it's twitch.tv/Chris Frossin, and you can find me on Instagram, Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm posting on Blue Sky a lot more as well. It's just Chris Frossin. I'm dead easy to find. So yeah, there we go. That's all the Aeldari Codex read through. I'm very impressed with it. It's very cool. Looking forward to getting some of these Aeldari on the battlefield. So thank you very much, everybody. Take care, and I will see you again soon, I am sure. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.